All right. Well, I'm here with Caitlin to talk about Bing. But first, a pickup truck.
Yeah, so Elon Musk has lost a lot of social capital lately. I think the something that a lot of us has known for a while, that he has this facade that's maintained, by media experts. But of course, Elon Musk is not this super genius inventor, you know, billionaire, whoever.
Well,
He's
turns
highly
out to be
flawed.
pretty awesome.
He's a flawed individual. And so this means that Tesla has been losing shares, losing money, and other auto manufacturers are sort of jumping in on that as soon as they can. And so I think we're going to start seeing a lot more luxurious electric cars that used to be in the purview of Tesla. And in particular, I want to look at this article by Yahoo Finance. And they are talking about this new Ram electric car that looks absolutely fantastic. I mean, I'm not a big truck person, but I mean, if you compare this to like the Cybertruck, which is absolutely sort of ridiculous, it looks like it comes from a PlayStation 1 or a video game. um, it's huge polygons. This looks like a real truck. You can see images here on the screen. And it's a full-on electric vehicle. You could do real work with it if you haul stuff around, and it looks futuristic. It's a luxury vehicle. And I love the all glass design up at the top. It's very modern. Oh, it's a beautiful, as far as trucks go, it is absolutely beautiful. And of course, inside has all the bells and whistles you would expect from a modern electric vehicle. And of course, inside it's just as amazing with the cool steering wheels and the big display you would usually see in like a Tesla. So other auto manufacturers have taken note, and I think we're going to see a lot more really nice electric vehicles coming from more established brands that should hold up better than Teslas. Because one of the other things that people are realizing is that Teslas, I mean, they're cool initially, you get it, but they have problems, and they haven't been in the auto business that long, to really work these out. Like you could own, like, I'm just going to spitball here. You could own like a Toyota from like 30 years ago, and it can still run today because Toyota's been here forever and they know their stuff.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we're going to see some more, really new electric cars from other companies. And like I said, it looks like, so what is this? Is this the Ford? Ram. This is the Ram
Yeah.
electric car. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is the thing of disruptors. You have something new, you shake up the market, but if you don't compete, sooner or later the old standards come back.
I mean, yeah, they're the old big car companies are competing,
Yeah.
and then we have the Apple car coming up
Yeah.
eventually. So yeah, I think that the electric car space is really going to start heating up, and we're going to have a lot more variety, not just you get a Tesla or something cheaper by another car company. We're going to have really nice electric vehicles across the board, and maybe some of them might actually have better, self-driving mechanisms in the future. Who knows?
That would be nice. Yeah. All right. Well, there's a article here by Bruce Schneier, which is very useful, helping to understand the latest crazy claim in the world of quantum computing. And here we go. Having trouble loading it here. Yeah, but the point is, a group of Chinese researchers have published a paper claiming that they'll be able to break 2048-bit RSA, but they haven't done it yet. So yeah, they haven't really done that, and you have to consider what they have done. Now, Shor's algorithm is the algorithm that can factor composite numbers into their primes using quantum computers. And although it's a great idea, nobody has been able to actually do any factoring of any significant size yet using Shor's algorithm. But what these guys have done is use something called approximate optimization on a quantum machine to lower the number of guesses and then finish it with classical lattice reduction. So they mix classical techniques and quantum techniques. And the point of this is they were able to crack a 48-bit number, which again is not anything near important enough to crack them out in cryptography, but it's much better than what they had in the past. And their point is they have calculated how it scales, and they claim it scales very well, so that if they get their hands on a quantum computer that already exists, they'll be able to crack 2048 bits. But apparently, there is dispute about their scaling argument. And Bruce Schneier ends up thinking it is not really going to scale. They think it's going to grow as the order of log n over log n, which is very slow. And but in fact, he thinks it's going to scale as a higher function of n, and that it's never really going to make it to anything significant. But anyway, it's very important to see as we move forward. And I think everybody expects within 10 or 15 years, we will have a quantum computer of some kind that can really crack RSA. So it's good to watch this progress and keep an eye on it and see what comes of this. Anyway, then we've got the all-important Bing. And you're on mute.
Oh, I'm on mute. Yes. So many tops go off mute.
Yeah.
So I never thought I would say this, but there's a really good reason why you might want to start using Bing. I never thought I would ever say those words, but Bing is starting to look really good.
I remember when Bing actually tried to market themselves by making a page that had Bing on one side and Google on the other, and it failed. Google
Yes,
always better.
Yeah, Google. So Google has been riding on their laurels for a while.
Yeah.
And there's this disruptor, as we were talking about disruptors, in the form of ChatGPT. So let's go over to the article here and let me show you what's going on. So if we go wrong page, there we go. So if we look at the article here, the Insider has an article written by Amelia David talking about how Bing is going to start integrating ChatGPT. Now, ChatGPT we talked about earlier is a chatbot AI that's actually really good and actually gives insightful sort of collaborations of data. So you ask it, like, I remember watching Star Trek, The Next Generation, and they would ask the computer to do things like take the data from this source and then, correlate it with data from this source and see if there's any like similarities. Now, of course, historically, if you want to do something like that on a computer, you would get out your Excel spreadsheets or databases and write a program to do that. ChatGPT, you tell it to do that, it'll do it. Or you could tell it more practically, like, write this code for me. It'll write code for you. It is amazing. It's exactly what those computers in Star Trek were doing. It's exactly what was promised by the internet. All the information you could possibly want. You ask a computer anything, and it gives you an answer. Is it the correct answer? Not always.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah, yes, but it's close enough that it's useful. Like, it might not print the right code, but it'll print code close enough that you can like fix it up very easily. And I mean, it really is amazing. People have used it, and they talk a lot about it. I mean, it is absolutely amazing what they've managed to do or what they've done with it. And so Microsoft is integrating it in with Bing, which should help improve, search results to not only have, here are pages, that have information, but also here's that answer to your query as well that we've sort of collated from the machine AI. Like, you ask it, who won the World Series in 1948? It understands that question, and it'll just give you the answer right away. You don't have to click on the web page, go there, go here, look at a table. No, it'll tell you right away, like, this is the winner. Or if you have like a question about how do I write a for loop in Bash, it will just print out the code for you right there. I mean, it has that contextual understanding that makes queries that much more powerful. And like I said, so Microsoft is looking to integrate it with Bing, and that could be big. And that's, remember, last week, I think I had an article about how Google is pulling the alarm on ChatGPT and saying, oh, we need to get something out there really quick because this is going to kill us. Well, Microsoft is pouncing on it and integrating ChatGPT in with Bing. So there may actually be a good reason to check out Bing in the near future.
Yeah. Well, that's the natural fate of Google. They've gone to seed and they've become vulnerable to disruption. All right. And so Android is going to one-up Apple. Apple, in last November or December, announced that their very latest phones can connect directly to satellites. So if you're out hiking somewhere remote and you have no internet service, you can send an SOS signal to a satellite by filling out a form. It's very limited, but you can send a message with your coordinates saying, I'm trapped. I need someone to come and rescue me, something like that, which is pretty awesome. And Android is now in the very latest version of the Android phone, supposedly soon, it will have the ability to connect directly to satellites from a phone and get two-way SMS messages anywhere. So it sounds awesome. I wonder how well it works. And this is, I think, really important for a lot of reasons. You would no longer never have a signal, be out of contact with people, which is happening all the time. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, so am I. One of the things that I'm working on right now is getting on my ground station onto the Ka band very cheaply. So it turns I thought I knew I eventually need to get on the Ka band. So for people that don't know what I'm talking about, these are like weird names for different frequencies. Like you have the X band, the C band, VHF, UHF. So to give you an idea about what I'm talking about when I talk about the Ka band, so you have things like UHF, VHF, which is in like the 100 megahertz, like 1 gigahertz range. And then you have sort of like the L, S and C bands, which are sort of in the low gigahertz range, like 1.5 gigahertz to like 4 gigahertz and so on and so forth. But then you start getting up into the like X band, which is around 10 gigahertz. So we're starting to really get high up there. And then you start getting into like the K band. So you get into like the KU bands at around like 15 gigahertz, and then like 11 or 12 gigahertz, and then you get into the Ka band, which is in the like 20 gigahertz, 40 gigahertz. It's really, really high up there. And I mean, I'm throwing out these numbers, but we have to think about what these mean. That means that every second there's an oscillation in the radio wave, like 20 billion times a second. I mean, that is absolutely staggering. And so like I said, I'm building some equipment right now to get on there, but I have to take that into account every step of the way. Like every PCB component, every piece of equipment has to be specifically designed to be able to handle that many oscillations per second. And also it like has weirder effects. Like normally we think about radios as sort of maybe a mountain might get in the way, but generally they're sort of transparent. But you're starting to get so high frequency that they'll start like interacting with raindrops. So like when you hear about like Doppler radar rain, they're like using the Ka band and stuff like that, so it can like reflect off raindrops. But what's really interesting, and the reason why we have like Starlink and like Kuiper and all these new services going up right now, is because the Ka band has opened up. And the Ka band does something very unique that the other bands don't do. They can do very precise beam forming into different locations. So you have like this one Ka satellite that's overhead, and it can have like 40 beams down below serving different areas individually. So there's not just like one satellite reception and all these people trying to go up to it like one cell tower. It's like one satellite acts like 40 cell towers, essentially. And so we can start integrating this with our phones to do light stuff. Like you're always going to get faster data, better connections if you could connect to a cell tower, hands down. Like I say it's really high tech and stuff, but what we can do with it is we can start thinking about satellite communications very differently than we have in the past. In the past, we started thinking about satellite communications in terms of connecting to a geostationary satellite, which is like 30,000 kilometers away. You have this like time lag, and it's just like one satellite. But with Ka band signals, you can it's almost like having cell phone towers in the sky. And so you really can not only get signals all over the place, but you can, like I said, like what you pointed out, have these like SMS services and emergency services hit your phone no matter where you are.
So does it take a lot more power out of the phone to send it that far?
That's a good question. I imagine it does.
Yeah, like it would drain your battery.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think it's. I'm guessing. I don't know specifically, it may depend on the hardware of the satellite, and supposedly with future, improvements in the Ka band, maybe it might not. The thing about satellites though is you always have a line of sight usually, and so that's going to reduce the power draw. The thing that makes it
had to put the big antennas on the satellites, which are making trouble for astronomers.
No. So the reason they had historically, the reasons we had big antennas is because we were hitting geostationary targets. The reason why the newer ones have big antennas is because they're using something called a phased antenna array to make all those little beams. Like I said, you hit each area individually so that you can have different areas that aren't conflicting with each other for bandwidth.
Yeah, I thought they would want the light gathering power to pick up a signal from a weaker cell phone.
That is really not the case why you would have those big arrays. The big arrays are for, like I said, for beamforming specifically. And so you get into these like little sort of dotted areas. And I imagine as the technology improves, there could be satellites that are like, this block gets this, like, this 1 mile area gets, this beam, this 1 mile area gets this beam. But like I said, the thing that kind of sucks is like, it's really cool, but it's never going to replace landlines, never going to replace your ISP, because it's still just, there's this lag. And also at the endpoint, there's going to be like a central ground station that everything has to pass through anyway.
Well, now Starlink does replace your ISP. So what's different about it?
It is not as fast. If you have fiber, you have no reason to use Starlink.
Yeah. Also, I think Starlink, you have to have a powered ground station. You don't have just a cell phone doing it.
No, but you also get much higher data rates.
Yeah.
If you just need to send text and stuff, you can get by using some techniques that allow you to send data more slowly at the cost of a very slow data rate.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yep.
All right, you've got these fast LED TVs.
Yeah, so I'm always interested when new display technologies comes out. And one of the things that's been plaguing modern televisions and modern monitors is that we used to have these things called cathode ray tubes. Those were those big, bulky TVs that sat in people's living rooms. And, they gave people eye strain, and they weren't really good monitors, and they were really big. And we got flat screen TVs, and we stopped making CRTs. Now you can't get them. But there's a niche market of people that really need CRTs because they need that low latency. And that's the thing about modern TVs and even OLEDs, is that there's a delay between when it gets the signal and when it can show up on the screen. So it gets the signal, processes the signal, and then changes the pixel. And there's, sometimes like a 5 or 6 millisecond delay. And so, for example, there are these games for the original Nintendo Entertainment System called like Duck Hunt. And the way it worked is there was a light sensor in the gun. And when you pulled the trigger, it would show white squares on the screen for like 1 frame. And CRTs were fast enough that it could, do that really quickly. You wouldn't even register it with your eyes. It would look like a flash. Like a gun bang, like you wouldn't even think about it. But what's really going on is that it shows these squares, and then if the light sensor sees that it's pointed towards a white light, it registers as a hit. Now, if you try playing that on a modern TV, it won't work because there's that slight delay, so the game can't like register it. And of course, there are like hardcore gamer people that really need that millisecond accuracy of monitors, and modern flat screen technology is getting to the point where it's getting that sort of instantaneous update. And in particular, there's an article here by PC Gamer by Jeremy Laird talking about a new type of television that has 2 nanosecond response times, not milliseconds, nanoseconds of response times. And these are called micro LED TVs. And they are 5 million times faster. So these basically are the replacement for CRT televisions that we've always needed, but we just, the technology didn't exist. Like flat is clearly better. Non-interlaced is clearly better. but having all that and having it, HDR and flat screen, this is it. This is the end game. This is what we've all been waiting for. And so I'm very much looking forward to when these go on the market and they start going down in price. So, like I said, these are the micro LED panels.
Yeah. Sounds like overkill. You probably don't need it to be a million times faster, but anyway, faster is good.
Faster is always better. I mean, ideally, yeah, you want it pretty much, millisecond. And it would be interesting, like I said, if you could play Duck Hunt on those TVs, I think we've done it. So once they come out, I want someone to hook up a Nintendo to those TVs and just play Dog Hunt. Because if they can do that, I'll buy it. I'm not going to use it to play Duck Hunt, but the delay in monitors. Like I like music games, and so really having even just a few milliseconds of delay, on the screen is really disconcerting when you get those precise timings with the notes. So, any sort of activity where you really need that precise timing just gets thrown out the windows with most modern displays.
All right. And the last one here is Rackspace. Rackspace supports Exchange. It'll host Exchange in the cloud and run it for you. And all their Exchange went down because there was a vulnerability in Microsoft Exchange, and Microsoft issued a patch. But what the Rackspace employed, the Microsoft official patch that fixed the vulnerability was had a serious flaw. It would cause your Exchange to crash. And Microsoft switched to, but there was a workaround. There was a way to prevent the exploit that you could implement, but that had a bypass. So, and Microsoft did not tell them that the workaround could be worked around. So they tried to deploy the appropriate defense that Microsoft recommended and found out that they got owned anyway. So it does seem like Microsoft failed to provide enough information to guide the people using their product. And it also reminds the whole world of what they should know. Why on earth is anybody using Exchange? Why isn't everybody just using Azure, Office 365? But apparently a lot of small businesses are still using Exchange, and there are serious problems with it. So anyway, if you're in the world of Microsoft, I'm sure that's important. I remember there's always a lot of demand for Exchange administrators. It used to be, what I hear is it's pretty much going down now, and everybody's going to Office 365. But if you haven't, you've got a headache. You've got a severe vulnerability in Exchange and only two bad choices to fix it. So I think that's it for this one. And we'll try to make another one on Tuesday. I'm still traveling, but hopefully I will manage it sometime Tuesday.